Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Here to introduce you to the great musicians and music businesses and organizations of Wisconsin. Every week, Wisconsin Music Podcast will be bringing you great information on what's happening in the Wisconsin music world. For our music-loving listeners, we'll bring you music that you haven't even heard of yet from unique and talented artists and hear about their journey so far. You'll either hear live performances of their songs or songs from their selected discography. For our musicians out there wondering what they can do to further their recognition, we'll be calling upon Wisconsin music businesses and organizations to enlighten you on what they're doing to help further your music journey. And now, here's your host, Zach Fell.
Thanks, Dean. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast. We are back on the air. Been kind of off for the last month. Been so busy at the high school with so many projects going on. Just couldn't fit in getting these episodes edited and out to you. So we are back. Some cool things have happened since the new year has turned. I was nominated for a Whammy for People's Choice Southeast radio station. So thank you out there to all the listeners that have been so supportive of the Wisconsin Music Podcast, helping amplify Wisconsin musicians. Hopefully I'm doing everyone a good justice of helping getting the names out there that are local to Wisconsin. Once again, thank you so much for nominated the Wisconsin Music Podcast for, once again, People's Choice Southeast radio station. So cool. Thank you so much. This week we have Tim O'Grady Jr. He is a country singer. Actually, let me pull up his bio here. In his bio, it says Tim is an independent traditional country singer-songwriter from rural southern Wisconsin. He is described by Marc Gratz of Midwest Music and Musings podcast as being a genuine and humble as the songs he writes. His music speaks to the realities of Midwestern life because that is the life he lives, the life he knows. He just so happens to be a talented singer-songwriter who can bring those stories to life. His first three singles, Have a Beer, Christmas at the Tavern, and All the Things You Do, have received airplay and recognition in several countries, including the United States, Canada, France, United Kingdom, and Australia. All three of these songs will be on his debut album, The Dollar Man. We're going to listen to the conversation I had with him, and I'll be playing three of his songs throughout the podcast. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. This week we have Tim O'Grady Jr., genre of country, correct?
Absolutely.
So why don't you kind of give us your music origin story? Like, how did you get started into music? Do you come from a musical family? You know, kind of like all those details that have kind of led you on your path of becoming a musician.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. It kind of started when I was, in school, and I kind of got together with a group of guys, and they needed some male voices for the choir. So I got together with some of my buddies, and we all joined together, and that kind of really, cultured my love of singing. And so I a couple years after that, I picked up a guitar and realized I could kind of write some songs and create some rhymes. So I started working on that and slowly have worked to this point. I don't know. And my family, I've heard rumors. I've never actually seen anybody play any instruments or anything, but I've heard rumors that my grandma was a drummer. Oh. And yeah, on my mom's side, they used to do polkas every Saturday night.
Okay. So
they would go down there and they would kind of they played a couple of them played accordion, and they would kind of have a little jam band polka session / dance, hall thing on Saturday nights.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you're singing, you're learning guitar. Did you take lessons, or was it like all do it yourself, learn the guitar?
Yeah, I took lessons for a little while, and then I don't know, I was working, I had a job pretty early on, and so that kind of got in the way of the lessons. And so I kind of quit those, and I just, worked on it when I could. Was pretty much it.
Okay. So who were like people that were inspiring you to play guitar? Who were you, drawing from to kind of create your own style?
Absolutely. So it's kind of, I don't know, my mom grew up listening to more of 70s rock, Pink Floyd, Queen, Eagles, Aerosmith. So I kind of taught myself to sing in those styles, with that sort of range, I guess. And I always admired Brian May and Roger Waters, as guitar players. But it wasn't until, I don't know, I got a little bit older, and we used to visit my grandma, and she had a farm out in the country. And she'd always have this little radio, AM radio, that was always on. It was always in her kitchen, and it was always on, and it was this was the 90s we're talking, so it was always Alan Jackson and George Strait.
Right.
And, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, that kind of mix. And so that kind of started to draw me towards that style of music, mainly, I think, because of the storytelling, and so that kind of started, I don't know, I kind of had an appreciation of a lot of different styles, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like the people that are mostly in like the country genre, that's what kind of drew to you the most, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So where are you from?
I'm from a little town called Chaupier, Wisconsin. If you know where that is, it's kind of, it's east of Beloit.
Okay.
Kind of southeast of Clinton, or southeast of Janesville.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, cool. So you're kind of close to Madison, I would think?
Yeah, I'm probably 45 minutes.
Okay, cool.
South of there, so.
Is that where when you go and play live, is that where you usually head out to, is into Madison, or where are your local haunts where you go and perform?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of trying to spread out a little ways. I've had, back in March, I was down in Nashville playing a couple of shows, and through Central Illinois, I have some friends near Springfield, and so I stopped, visited those guys, and we had some kind of jam shows, I guess, that we did. But no, I've gone as north, I guess, to this point, as far north as the Fox Valley, the Lac, and then as far west as, I don't know, like Highland, Wisconsin.
Okay.
So we're getting out there.
Right. So you mentioned Nashville. How was the scene down there for you?
It was good. I have a couple friends that live down there as well, and so I'm more of like in the traditional country realm, I guess. So it wasn't my favorite. I'm gonna be honest with you. There's a few places that play traditional country, but most of it is the newer pop country, which I'm not a real big fan of.
Okay.
Just a personal preference, I guess.
I mean, everybody's different. Everybody has different tastes, which is what makes the world go around, as they say. Right?
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk a little bit about performing for you. So what's kind of like your mindset? How do you prep for your gigs, and when you're up on stage, what is your persona? Is it like natural persona, or is it like kind of an act for you? Sure.
So I don't know, when I don't really have too much time to prep, I guess, before gigs. I have a son and a family and stuff like that, and I drive school bus as well. So usually it's a get whatever I have to do done before that, and then throw everything in the truck and run to the gig, and kind of somewhat prepare mentally. It helps when it helps me a little bit when I've been to a place before. Obviously you get the layout, and you understand how all of that works, and usually the crowd is pretty similar each time, so you kind of know what you're getting yourself into in that sense. But when you're playing a new venue, you obviously don't know what to expect. So you kind of go in with a tentative plan, and you kind of read the crowd and see what they're responding to. I don't ever make set lists or anything like that. I usually, I go about 2/3 covers and 1/3 originals as far as a set list goes, as a rough guideline, I guess. And like I said, depend on the response you get, you kind of go from there.
Right. So if you're not making a set list, is it basically just you by yourself up on stage?
Just me.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you have plans to do with a full band, or is it kind of more the solo thing that you're really drawn to doing?
Yeah, I really like doing the solo stuff, and it's not that, I mean, I've played with bands, and it's super cool. I mean, you can't deny the cool energy that you get, but it's also logistically, there's a lot of working pieces, with a band. You got to work with everybody's schedules and things like that, and there's a lot of other behind the scenes stuff that goes along with it, and so for me, I really like listening room style shows where it's just one person and an instrument, and they're telling stories about their songs and why they wrote them and what their mindset was in writing that. So I would prefer, I wish there was more places to be able to do that. I guess I'm lucky enough, just south of me in the little town of Clinton, Wisconsin, there's a place called Boxcars, and they have a listening room, and they get national singer-songwriters, pretty much in the same vein that I'm writing stuff. So I guess honestly, if you go back to inspiration in recent years, that has inspired me quite a bit to get back into it.
Excellent. So what is kind of like your goal with your music? Is it just live where you're living, raise your family and just play music once in a while, or do you want to try to go to a higher level?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, right now, my son's 8, so I kind of have to stick a little closer to home, these days. But honestly, I think my goal would be to, obviously ride the train as far as you can. That's a phrase I use quite a bit when I'm talking to folks, because I really don't know. It's kind of, a lot of it has to do with luck and being in the right place at the right time and meeting the right people. As much, you could be, I've met a lot of unbelievably talented folks, and they just haven't got that break or found that connection, that they need yet.
Right. All right. Then, so the venues that you talked about, listening rooms and smaller venues, basically, is there any bigger venues that you're hoping to play at in the future? Oh,
wow. That's a great question. I honestly haven't even thought about it. I did get a Summerfest date booked for July 7th. So that's pretty cool. That's a good place to start, I think.
What stage are you playing at?
The ground floor.
Okay, excellent.
Yep.
Gotta start.
Yep,
somewhere,
2:00,
right?
I think.
July. Yeah. And then, have you tried to get into like the state fair or anything like that?
I've looked into it a little bit. I haven't pushed it real hard because, honestly, my schedule right now, I'm booked with shows every weekend and during the week too through September.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's, I need to look into that more coming up.
One step at a time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like we mentioned before, you've played in Nashville and you're playing in Wisconsin and Illinois and some other places. Kind of give us your view of the local scene attitude. Do you see it as a very positive one, or something that, we can talk about both sides, the positive and the negatives of it. What do you see the positives, when we start with that, of the local scene?
Sure. So near me, in the Janesville area, I'm going to touch on that. because honestly, there is a super rich local scene around Janesville, and there's a ton of talented musicians, guys that have, toured the country, playing music with bands. I mean, I don't know, I just got to play a Merle Haggard tribute show that was all local musicians, and we had Eddie Rivers on steel guitar. He's played steel with Asleep at the Wheel, and actually played with Merle Haggard and a lot of different big country names. So that was pretty cool. But like I said, that was all completely local musicians. And I would say for the most part, they're all very supportive of each other, which is cool, and it's very helpful. I've learned a lot in the past. I guess I've been doing this for real seriously for the past 2.5 years. Okay. And then you had COVID in there, so it kind of shook things up a little bit.
Right. So yeah. What did you learn from these guys and girls that have done a lot of touring with like the upper level musicians? Why don't you give us some of the details about that?
Yeah. I mean, I just honestly, when I see folks on any level, there's always something you can learn from another musician, no matter, whether they're just starting out or whether they're the biggest name in the world. There's always little things you can learn. Sometimes it's what not to do, but that's okay, but learning from some of the bigger name folks that I've been able to meet and play with, a lot of it just is, for me, is confidence. And I have a hard time with that aspect in being, I'm usually a pretty shy person. So it's kind of a weird, situation being on stage. I just try to do the best I can at each show. But like from them, it's mostly just general stuff. They'll teach you little tips and tricks, how to adjust the crowd and how to even plan your songs. So, and I've one random tip that I still think about for every show is, you think about when you're kind of, like I said, I don't plan a set list, but I'm very conscious of what key songs are in and what tempo is. So that was something that one guy told me early on. He's like, you obviously want to switch up your tempos of songs. He's like, you also want to switch up your keys, because you're gonna see your audience tune out pretty quick. You keep doubling up on them.
Right, because then it starts kind of sounding the same old over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's now move on to your latest recording that came out in May, right?
Yep, May 6th.
May 6th. The Dollar Man. So why don't you kind of tell us the adventure of that recording? From beginning to end. How it started, where you recorded, who you recorded with. Give all the details so the listeners can kind of give an idea of how this whole thing got together.
Absolutely. So let me back way up, and I say way up, but it was only a few years ago, I guess. So in going to a lot of the local shows, like the Singer-Songwriter listening room type shows I was telling you about, I'd met up with Big Red and Tyler from 101.9 Iron Country down in Beloit.
Okay.
And so they're the kind of sponsor of a lot of those type shows around here. And I got to know them guys pretty well. And I don't know, I kind of mentioned, in passing a couple of times that, hey, I used to write songs and play and stuff like that. And they encouraged me to get back into it. So that was, a lot of help from them. And then Big Red, he's like, hey, I know a guy that does recording. I said, okay, cool. I got a handful of songs that I could kind of start recording or whatever. And so I met up with him, and his name is Jim Corrett, and he's out of South Beloit. I don't know, probably a 3 or 4 time Grammy Award winner for his recording stuff down and through the Rockford music industry.
Okay.
and he helped me a ton in the recording process. I mean, I was pretty green, as far as that stuff went. And so he taught me the ropes, and it was kind of trial by fire. I had never recorded to a click track or anything like that. So that whole thing was completely new. And so over the course of, I think him and I recorded, I don't know, for probably 3 months, and then COVID hit and we didn't meet for a while. And then I think it was finally in October of 2020, him and I really started to hit it hard. And we just, I don't know, I could only meet with him like once a week for a few hours.
Yeah.
So I tried to make the most of my time, and we did as much as we could every week. And I eventually wrote enough songs over, the course of those few years and getting started with Jim that I had enough for a full album, and a couple songs I had taken from when I was in high school, and I turned them into a little more country style, song. But so not every, I guess if you listen to the, album as a whole, it's just, I like for people to listen to it as a whole, because it kind of has a flow to it. But when you're listening to it, not every song is going to necessarily be country, I guess, but it's stuff from the heart. But yeah, and I don't know, I honestly really, I can't thank Jim Cred enough for helping me, in recording, and all the all the session musicians I had, that recorded on it. And I don't know, it's honestly a dream come true at this point to have it done.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. So what I usually do is I have guests put on like 3 songs for the listeners to hear, to kind of get an idea of, of your style and, the musicality and all that other kind of stuff. There's like 3 songs you like to talk about that we could put on the podcast?
Sure. Here, I have my copy right here. So kind of look at it. Yeah, we'll talk about a few of them here.
Yeah.
I don't know. They all have sentimental value of one way or another. But I would say if I had to pick a favorite, just right off the cuff, it would be track number 5, Tonight My Fraulein. And that's a song I wrote when I was 18 years old. And my now wife was on a trip to Germany for several weeks. And so I was missing her. And so that was kind of my, inspiration for that song. And when you listen to it, it's got a very, if you know the song Lost in the 50s Tonight by Ronnie Milsap, they have similar vibes. They have that kind of 50s kind of swing doo-wop, kind of slow, dance, classic 50s scene in the gym type of feel to it,
Okay.
Chance I can tell you how can be with you tonight. Why don't you turn out the light? Let me be with you tonight.
Yeah. Let's see a couple other ones. I have to talk about my song on their bus driving day. Just, you know, because we just got done with school here
Right.
last week, and I wrote that song when I was just learning the ropes as a bus driver, and I don't know how many bus drivers are out there, but you know, it's like any other job. It has its crazy days and it has its decent days, but for the most part, it's you know, just when you think you've seen everything, there's something else, you know, that gets thrown at you. And but you know, I was doing 3 bus routes a day right away, and I got home between routes, and honestly, this song took me maybe an hour to write. I kind of had I just went with a pretty basic bluegrass, you know, key of G, and went to town. You know, just kind of spilled out. But yeah, if you listen to that one, it's obviously a comical song.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I wake up in the morning and I drive myself to school. No, I'm not a teacher, I'm a bus driving fool. Make sure the bus is working and then I'm on my way. It's just the beginning of another crazy day. I get to my first stop, ain't nobody there. Still no one by the 4th stop, and now I'm getting scared. Starting to wonder if I'm in the right state. If it keeps going this way, ain't no chance we'll be late. About halfway through, then it starts to rain. Another mile down the road, I'm stuck on a train. 20 minutes later, the train's finally gone. Lord, please help me, what else could go wrong? There ain't much you can do, there's a lot you can say. Gotta try to make it through another bus driving day. There's some kids by the road, they're not even mine. That's when a Corvette blows right by my stop sign. Tried to get their plate number, he already turned. Probably on the phone, some people never learn. Up here I'll make a left turn and head on back to town. That's when I can tell, had a tire going down. Hoping we'll hold on and needs a little air. This point all I'm asking is to please make it there. There ain't much you can do, there's a lot you can say. Gotta try to make it through another bus driving day. I pull into the bus stop, I'm the last one in. Can't believe I made it, my patience wearing thin. With a little bit of training and just a tad of luck, I could ditch a Stooge Cruiser and drive a semi-truck. I saw Ross man coming, started to prepare. Exactly when I tell him, just when he got there. He got to the window, that's when I heard him say, "What are you doing? There's no school today." There ain't much you can do, there's a lot you can say. Gotta try to make it through another bus driving day. There ain't much you can do, There's a lot you can say. Gotta try to remember that we don't have school today.
Trip, man. And I don't know what it is about. I don't know what it is. I have like 50 some kids on my bus route.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about when you get them inside of specifically a bus, but obviously, you know, enclosed spaces like that, they just kind of go crazy. You know, and I'm sure you can relate, you know, with kids in class. So.
Yep.
But and another song I wanted to talk about too, I released it as a single back last September, but it's a song called Have a Beer.
Early on Sunday morning, I praise the Father, Ghost, and Son. I head home to watch a game after church is done. When the Packers score a touchdown, I head out to cheer. That's right about the time I have a beer. I stare out the window, my hayfield of a yard. Eating to look busy, but not do a job that's hard. So I start up the mower and put her into gear. That's right about the time I have a beer. If I'm working or I'm praying or driving down the road, I sip on a tall glass of water that's nice and cold. But if my truck is parked in the garage and I plan to stay right here, that's right about the time I have a beer. If I'm at a bonfire or a badger tailgate, any type of party or out on a date, a Thursday night at bowling or after hunting deer, that's right about the time I have a beer. If I'm working or I'm praying or driving down the road, I sip on a tall glass of water that's nice and cold. But if my truck is parked in the garage and I plan to stay right here, that's right about the time I have a beer. Wisconsin, you'll know what I mean when I say a glass of beer goes great with anything. From across to Milwaukee, Floyd to Superior, no, we don't need a reason to have a beer.
I didn't really intend for it to be at the time, but it kind of, when I got done writing it, I realized it was kind of a theme song for Wisconsin.
Wonder why?
Yeah, you know, and it, I don't know, but I don't know. They all turned out pretty well, you know, as good as I could have hoped to at this point with the budget and the resources that I had available, you know.
Yeah. And so why did you name the album The Dollar Man?
The Dollar Man. So it's actually track number 1, the title track for the album, and the concept of the Dollar Man kind of is a nod to my grandpa. And when I was a kid, we would go over there, and my brother and I, right before we would leave, as we were leaving, basically, we would always ask him for $1, and we would say, "Hey, Grandpa, how about one DOLLAR?" You know, and he would always give us $1. And so, and he always worked hard, and he was a mason, or is a mason. He's still around. But he built the house that he lived in with his own hands, you know, laid all the brick and and built everything. So the song's about, just working hard and providing for your family. And so it's kind of a combination of things there for that.
Excellent. Very good. Nice tribute to your grandfather, for sure.
Yeah.
Going down the list here, we've gotten through most of the questions I have for you, but
okay.
We talked about the recording. And you had mentioned that, you're married and you have an 8-year-old son. So how does work-life balance work for you? Is it a struggle, or have you got a pretty good control over that?
Honestly, it's a struggle. It's honestly a struggle.
Yeah.
I try to do the best I can. I book just about all of my own shows. I make all the graphics, all the posts on social media. Like, I do everything, just about. I have a guy that I book a few shows through with every year, but 95% of it is, me just trying to, just trying to grind it out.
Yeah.
But my wife I can't thank her enough too. She has been nothing but supportive, through all this. She lets me go and do my music thing. And, there's some nights that I get home or some mornings I get home at 2 a.m., and she's still kind of half awake,
yeah,
when I get there. So she always makes sure I get home and stuff like that. So
excellent.
Trying to make it work.
Yeah, for sure. Are you like a part of like BMI or ASCAP to, like try to sell your songs to like sync stuff or movies or TV shows or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm registered through ASCAP.
Okay.
But I haven't pushed real hard to do much for sync licensing or anything like that. I've tried to put it out to a few places, but I haven't had any luck like that to this point. And I know just in talking with a couple of friends that are trying to do that, they prefer to have unreleased music, it seems. So I kind of foiled myself in that, in that sense, I guess, but that's okay. You live and learn.
Yeah, I hear you. The next question you might have already answered with one of the gigs that you've done, but the next one is some gigs that have made an impression on you and why they've made an impression on you. Either, and it could be both. It can be as an audience member or
Sure.
as a performer.
Okay. Man, I got an opportunity. So I guess how I really got back into playing music here, and I think it was just about 3 years ago now that I had my first gig back into it. So a place that I used to go to and watch and see a lot of shows, singer-songwriter shows, is a place called The Tavern. It was just called The Tavern over in Beloit. And my dad went to school with the lady that owned it, and it's no longer there anymore, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
But the very first show I played was there, and it was like a Sunday afternoon. I had a pretty good crowd, of friends and family that came out to support, which was pretty fantastic. But that will always stick out in my mind. You getting back to it, and it just feels like your heart is going to jump out of your throat, because you're so nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I kind of tried to settle in. I got to open for a couple national artists over there. Craig Gertis, he's an outlaw country guy, and Josh Morningstar.
Okay.
So that, and I was a few months into it at the time, so I still had no idea what I was doing again. And, maybe still don't, but you do the best you can.
Right.
But more recently, last December, I got to play at a place down in Springfield, or I guess it's Riverton, Illinois, called the Backroom Lounge, which is another singer-songwriter venue that is just a little tiny room. I mean, that room has got to be maybe 10 feet wide by, 30 feet long.
That's
it's
not
just
big
a
at
tiny,
all. That's
yeah,
very small.
and you pack as many people as will come to the show in there.
Yeah.
And I got to play after a show down there, just to kind of, I don't know, just to be on that stage was a pretty awesome experience, just to kind of check it off the list almost, and then I got to open for a guy named Tony Logue last St. Patrick's Day down at the Room and Boxcars down in Clinton. And you meet just about all the folks that I've met that are fellow singer-songwriters have been just fantastic. I mean, Tony Logue is getting to be a national name at this point. He's from Kentucky and is a great singer-songwriter. And I got to open for him down there, and man, he was just nothing but nice. He's like, hey, if you ever need anything, he's like, just get a hold of me and we'll figure it out, and I'll help you as best as I can.
Yeah.
So
very cool. Very cool. Yeah, definitely. And my last question is, what's on your playlist right now? What artists are you listening to that maybe you would like to have more recognition out there for people to listen to?
Sure. Oh man. This is going to sound strange when I say this. I don't actually listen to a whole lot of music outside of, I don't know. I don't even, even when I'm riding around in my truck, I don't even have the radio on usually. I'm just always thinking about stuff. But let me think about this for a second. I don't know. I've met so many great artists, over the last few years, and there's so many of them that are all deserving of some, bigger recognition. A lot of independent folks. Some recent friends that I've made are Cody Lee Moomey. He's from Central Illinois. My friend Jack Daniel just put an album out down that way in Illinois. Man, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank right now, but
that's okay. That's okay.
I could write you out a list of probably 50.
I hear you. Was there anything that I haven't asked you yet that we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
If I could say, something to the folks out there is make sure you support your local and independent artists and venues too. Because I understand getting the chance to see national acts when they come around. Absolutely do that. But don't forget about the local independent folks too, because everybody kind of started in that realm, and slowly grew, or some grew quickly, but just make sure you get out and go to the shows and buy the merch and the CDs and the music and stuff like that. Right.
Absolutely. And where can they go to hear your music and see where you're playing your tour?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go on my website at timogradijr.com. You'll find links to music and merch, and there's a whole schedule of upcoming shows on there. That's probably my most complete schedule. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff too.
Right.
So you can find music through that, and I'm on all the digital platforms, too. But I don't really make much off of a stream, so
nobody does. And I'll put all that information in the show details. So those that are listening to the podcast, just go to the show details and you can see all the links for Tim. Well, Tim, thank you so much for being on the Wisconsin Music Podcast. It was definitely a pleasure to hear, all about you and your music and your journey.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thanks again to Tim for being on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed that conversation, learned some cool things about what he's been involved with and advice that he was giving. It's always good to hear different perspectives and how people approach certain things. So thanks again, Tim, for all that great information. Check him out. I know it's been over 6 months when I did that interview, but I'm trying to get caught up on everything. And now I have the time to do that and get more of these episodes out to all of you. That being said, As a school teacher, there are a lot of activities I'm involved with. Getting close to the end of the year, we just have about 4 months left of the school year. I'm running the Recording Arts Club, and we are doing the sound for our musical coming up called Grease. Anybody out there heard of that one? Yes, the one that John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John starred in way back in the 70s. And we're all sold out, so we are really busy making sure everything runs as smoothly as possible for this great performance coming up at the high school I teach at. Also, my jazz ensemble auditioned for the Essentially Ellington Jazz Fest out in New York. We're waiting to hear back on whether they got accepted. No matter what happens, I am really proud of all the hard work they've put in for that. Plus, we have concerts and solo ensemble. So if anybody has ever been part of a music program through the schools, might know about what solo ensemble is. These are our young musicians working on written music and performing them in front of adjudicators. And then the adjudicators do kind of like a small master class and kind of let them know what they did well on and things that they could do to improve on their performance. And students usually do this from middle school through high school. So have graduations and Memorial Day music to get prepared for. Make sure that they're performed at the top level that can be performed from high school students. And Pep Band, where we play at the basketball games and football games. So there's always a lot of things on my plate, but I enjoy doing these podcasts, and I hope you enjoy them as well. So we'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.